Hello. What's up, everyone? Thanks for tuning in to Fun Speculation. Mav here. Sunday impromptu stream time. Appreciate anyone tuning into this live or after the fact. This community has absolutely been amazing to this channel, and I thank you all for being a part of what we do. If you do like the content here, always remember, if you can, hit that like button, share it out, sub to the channel, hit the notification bell, all that kind of cool stuff. It greatly helps the channel grow and more people find us like you. And again, thank you for being here. But I got a lot to kind of talk about. This has been an interesting past week for Xbox for sure, and for gaming actually as a whole. So I think a lot of this conversation is probably going to die down this coming week because, you know, the new news cycle will start tomorrow. New things will happen. People will find new things to bitch about, or people will find new things to be excited about. And that's kind of how it usually goes within gaming. But this has been a very big week for news, especially regarding Xbox. And I kind of want to run down some things and kind of tackle things individually about some of the stuff that's been going on. And now we obviously had our podcast, 3 of them this week: FSP, PM in the PM, and Xbox Ultimate. And still, I don't get a chance to say everything, right? So it's going to be a little bit of a recap, but also bring to light some other things. There's an article that hit today that a lot of people are bringing up, and I got a lot to say on it as well. And or it didn't hit today, actually hit 2 days ago. So I was just aware of it today. People started noticing some of the comments in this article, so it kind of started spreading around Twitter and stuff. And I think there's some inconsistencies, some misinformation, lack of comprehension, and this kind of goes on par with what we've seen from gaming media the last week and what's become a trend of gaming media the last few years. But it's just getting more and more glaring, and I feel like more than Xbox has its problems, which it obviously does. I mean, nobody's perfect. Everybody's got to make improvements, and we can call those out, and we definitely do on this channel. It seems like gaming media even has some bigger problems here, because if you can't even comprehend, if your job is to analyze things and write articles based upon them, providing information and opinions to your readers, then I think some normal basic level of comprehension should be required. And so that way the public isn't misinformed about things, and takes can sometimes be really misleading about almost like a false sense of consensus in a way with the general public, and the way people think, and what's going on actually in the gaming business and the industry, and especially regarding Xbox. There's still a lot of people that don't even understand what Xbox is trying to do, obviously. So we'll get into some of that. But again, thanks for being here, everybody. Shout out to Tom from Toonami. How's it going, Tom? Game Shark, how's it going? RazorNZ, what's up? OCD Gamer, Amit Kumar, Deccaddo, Delusions of Grandeur. How's it going, everybody? Thanks for being here. A side note before we kind of get started into some of the gaming talk, I did just go see Guardians of the Galaxy 3 yesterday. And I have to say, if you are a fan of Phase 1 of the MCU, if you are a Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2 fan, if you like those movies, then I would actually consider Guardians of the Galaxy 3 a must-watch. I feel like it's the best MCU movie I've seen since Endgame, and I feel like it really kind of focuses on storylines of the Guardians, and it kind of puts things in a great place as far as what's gone on in that franchise within the MCU. So, you know, I can't recommend it enough. That it was probably James Gunn's last Marvel movie, as well. I know there's some people that don't like him, and I completely understand that. I wasn't a huge fan of his Suicide Squad movie. I am excited for what he's going to do for DC. I'm excited, not guaranteeing it's going to be great, but I'm excited that there's going to be a level of cohesiveness within a universe, finally, and I want to see what that turns into. But I would say, like, check out Guardians if you're a fan of those movies. If you've been down on some of the last few, this would have fit in great as part of the first phase, I think, except for it doesn't necessarily 100% tie in to the whole, obviously, the Thanos storyline and stuff like that. But I really enjoyed it. So, yeah, check it out. I don't know if you've seen it yet, Jasper. I know Psycho has, and he wasn't as in love with it as I am. But and I probably know why. It's not perfect, but for me, it was pretty damn great and enjoyable. But let's get into some gaming talk, some Xbox discussion, because I'm sure that's what you guys are here for. Shout out to Pong Soul. What's up, Void Rat? What's up, Mr. Ordinary VX? How's it going, guys? Appreciate you being here. Guardian Blacks, Batan 13. How's it going? Pong Soul says, "Wait a minute, professional journalists are eroding the credibility further? No way. I don't believe it." Yeah, it's become a pretty damn big problem, because I feel like overall there's a false narrative that's out there regarding Xbox, and more than Xbox has done it to themselves, it's actually permeated more because of gaming journalists and lack of comprehension to the business even, and what Xbox is trying to do. And you can kind of tell it in these articles. And the one that I was mentioning specifically, and if you clicked on this stream or video, if you're watching it later, then you probably clicked on it because of the thumbnail, where I say gaming journalism has a bigger problem than Xbox does. And I kind of want to get into gaming industry's article regarding gamingindustry.biz. They got a good site. I like some of their stuff. This one is more of an opinion article from them, and that's a problem as well. It's just like everything's an opinion article now. It's like lack of just credible articles that are just providing information. Instead, when you have a lot of these opinion pieces, they get kind of almost get put out there as if it's factual. Regardless of if they label it opinion or not, they kind of get blanketed and lumped in with the rest of the site, as in like, hey, let's take them on their word. This is what's going on because they understand things. This is gaming industry website. So obviously the journalists here have done their homework and understand what's going on. Well, but if you actually read these things, it's like, what? What's in this specific article? I'm going to read it and kind of go through things. And you can say some things they may have a point on, but blatantly missing any basic level of comprehension about the Phil Spencer interview the other day is glaring, especially at the end of this article. So we'll kind of get into it. This is gamesindustry.biz. And the title of the article is Xbox's Future Brighter Without Activision Opinion. Denied a shortcut to industry leadership, Microsoft's ambitions can be channeled into innovation and creativity, starting with world-class studios it already owns. Well, you can say, well, yeah, they could just not get ABK, which is Phil Spencer's also alluded to that. He said that ABK is an accelerant to their model, to their business, what they want to do, but it's not the end-all be-all. They're going to move forward with their idea of what the industry can be and with what they're trying to do, regardless of if ABK is closed or not, which is interesting, like, because that's what this article is almost about. So I don't understand that. But besides the fact, this is written by Rob Fahey, contributing editor on GamesIndustry.biz. It says, over the past year or so, a note of discord has crept into the generally enthusiastic response to Microsoft's current console strategy. Again, console strategy. Xbox is way more than just console. So I'm just throwing that out there again. Game Pass has been beloved. Xbox Series X is a superb piece of console hardware. There you go. Yeah, you're getting some stuff right. Series S as an unprecedented marvel in terms of bang for buck performance. And from Phil Spencer down, the company's execs and spokespeople have perfected the art of making all the right noises to make game consumers feel good about the platform. I wouldn't agree with that as well. I would even say that they've had some more misfires with 2022, lack of first party. I think Phil would even disagree with that. Perfected the art of making all the right noises to make game consumers feel good about the platform. I feel like that's the main question that should be actually asked: is how does a general casual consumer and the overall people happy with the last couple of years? And I would say that's more of the problem than anything with Xbox is 2022, and then the first big AAA new IP this year with Redfall. So I don't know. This is like articles all over the place, right? There's just one wrinkle, they say. It's become harder and harder to ignore the lack of first-party exclusives. Okay. This year we've had Hi-Fi Rush, Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition. We've had, let's see, Redfall just hit. Let's see. We also have Age 4 hitting this year. We have Forza Motorsport hitting this year, Starfield, and possibly more. First party. Also, you have Ghostwire Tokyo hit this year. Not an exclusive because of a pre-existing contract with PlayStation. But you want to say that for 2022? That's fine. This year, there's not a lack of first-party exclusives. Unless you are unless you're not unless you're saying because it's on PC, it's not exclusive. I don't understand that. But besides that, let's keep moving on. Shout out Mike Sperling. How's it going? Mike says, to many video experts who know nothing about making or developing a game, most have never played a video game. It almost seems that way, right? What's up, Brian Walensky? How's it going? Ray Oid, how's it going? Poison Maniac, how's it going? 3-Bit, how's it going? Tim Allen, how's it going? Happy Sunday to you too. Hope you're all having a good weekend. Blackcarde, what's up, man? How are you doing? Yeah, so let's keep going here. Jesse B, sorry, I keep seeing more names. I want to say hi. Jesse B, what's up? All right, so already so many inconsistencies in here that kind of permeate a false sense of the general consensus. Forte, what's up, man? How's it going, dude? AJH, what's up? Let's get back into this. The impressive backwards compatibility of the new systems. Yep. And the back catalog Game Pass provides, and new games that Game Pass provides, I would say. We've already had games like Wolong. You have indie games hitting. Last Case of Benedict Fox. You just had Ravenlock as well. Other third parties. Stalker 2 may still hit this year. Replace supposed to hit. Silk Song supposed to hit. MLB The Show hit Game Pass day one as well. So the back catalog Game Pass provides were great stopgaps in the early days before new software arrived. Speaking personally, my Series X got far more play than my PS5 in the first year or so for precisely that reason. But as Sony's first-party engine has spun up to speed, the continued reliance on that stopgap and on multi-platform titles has become a significant problem. I have a question to Rob Fahey. What PlayStation 5 first-party exclusives have you played this year? That's what you're saying that Xbox is lacking this year, where I've named several that are coming and also some that have already released. What PlayStation 5 that you're saying you're playing your PlayStation 5 mainly because of the more first-party exclusives? Which first-party exclusives on PlayStation have you been playing this year? Has there been a PlayStation first-party release this year? At all? curious about that. I don't. In fact, I think Sony themselves said the only first-party release they have this year is Spider-Man 2. Unless you're including PSVR 2 in that, but he's specifically discussing the PS5. So, within the regards to this year, you want to say 2022? Yeah, for sure. You know, but this year, I don't know. What are you playing? I'm curious, Rob. What are you playing on your PS5 right now? First party wise. But as Sony's first party engine has spun up to speed, has it? The continued reliance on that stopgap and on multi-platform titles has become a significant problem. Okay. I'm thinking Rob may just not like some of the first party releases that have released this year on Xbox. Maybe not for him. That's fine. But you can't act like they don't exist. There's nothing new or controversial in this take. It's a sentiment that's been expressed regularly in recent months. All the more so in the past week following the UK CMAs. Now, I gotta question this too. If you want to say 2022, yes, but you're saying in recent months there's been questions over Microsoft's first party output? This year, before Redfall, everybody was on a high. Redfall still released. It released broken, and it's not a good game to most gamers. But they still released it. It's still a first-party game that released. In fact, you can say that they've hit between the games that hit Game Pass day one, between the first-party games, they've had significantly more output than Sony has. I mean, even with the first party, they've had Age 2. Again, they've had High on Life, which was that's not High on Life. High on Life is sorry. Hi-Fi Rush. Now Redfall, Age 4. Like I said, I just don't get it. Like we're in May and we've already had at least three first party releases on Xbox. Yeah, well, I'm sure this is a new article, Cheo. And shout out to Cheo. Shout out to Steel Rain. CBH4 God. How's it going as well? Appreciate y'all being here. Mr. Ordinary VX. I don't understand this. Okay, so how about do some journalistic research before writing this? I'm just saying. In recent months. Anyway, all the more so in the past week, following the UK CMA decision to block Microsoft's acquisition of Activision Blizzard. Has that caused concerns over Microsoft's first-party output? Because that's almost the argument that he's making. Which had been the great white hope for resolving Xbox software pipeline problems. Has it? Is it ABK going to make things even crazier? Or are we in this disbelief that, like, there is not a pipeline of first-party games coming that have already been announced and that we know are in the works and that have already been releasing? And in fact, in the Phil interview the other day, he let out that big sigh of relief saying, finally, you know, this year we've been on track. And he listed some of the games, and we are on track with dropping one a quarter. That's much better output than Sony. I would say ABK gives people hope that you're going to save even more money on some of these games, but those games most of them aren't even going to be exclusive. So he also talked about exclusive first-party games. Has ABK been the solution for Microsoft for exclusive first-party? No, it's been a boost in their minds for boosting Game Pass and the cloud. This has nothing to do with exclusives, not for ABK. Maybe in the future there'll be more exclusives from ABK, but most Diablo's not going to be a exclusive. Call of Duty is not going to be exclusive. What big Overwatch isn't going to be exclusive? What big ABK games that exist currently or coming out soon are going to fill in that exclusive pipeline? I don't understand this article. It's not resolving the Xbox software pipeline problem. I don't understand this at all. Continuing. The concerns about how Xbox can tackle the challenges it now faces have only been intensified by the disappointing reception for Redfall. I would agree with that. Redfall has caused a lot of questions with, for some, like the quality, I think, that to expect for some of these games, because when you release a bad game or a game that's not received horribly, which Redfall has been received horribly, regardless if you're enjoying it or not, if you enjoy Redfall, you have every right to, right? That doesn't change the fact that it's got its problems and it was received horribly, which can lead to lack of confidence, which it should have led to lack of confidence with any publisher's titles, any platform holder's titles. If you drop the ball, it leads to a lack of confidence, right? You would think somehow PlayStation gets a pass when they drop the ball, but it is what it is. But they've earned enough goodwill to be able to get away with that, right? The first Xbox exclusive title by storied Bethesda studio Arcane, and one of the games upon which this year's hopes for Xbox had been pinned, along the admittedly far more high-profile Starfield. The Xbox bench just isn't deep enough to allow for swings to miss at this point. Now, I will say, if you're regarding it to 2022 and you don't account for everything coming, then that might hold some weight. But he's still lacking any kind of acknowledgement about the releases this year and the releases coming this year besides Starfield. Saying that pretty much their hopes were pinned on just Redfall and Starfield. Not acknowledging everything else they got coming. Especially only days after the whole future of the Division's strategy was called into question so publicly. Again, I don't even it's like sentence after sentence full of misinformation. The whole future of the Division strategy was called into question so publicly by the CMA, as I'm assuming, because the UK and the CMA try and block this Activision Blizzard deal. Again, this was written after the Phil Spencer interview and after reports had come out about his internal letter to people within Xbox and talking about the fact that ABK is an accelerant. It is not going to change the direction of what they're doing. It was just going to bolster it and make them get to their goals faster. You can say that the CMA is questioning the strategy because they don't want to allow those games into Game Pass. But based on what Xbox already has and other moves they're going to make, it's not changing what their strategy is. It's really kind of lack of information and journalistic research to even assume that based on Phil Spencer, the Microsoft CEO of gaming's comments. Yet, in the face of all of this, I find myself more cautiously optimistic about the future direction of Xbox than I have been for some time. The reason for that optimism, in a nutshell, is this: having been told that it cannot buy its way out of the dilemma it faces, Microsoft is left with no choice but to innovate its way out of it instead. This is painting the picture that, again, this misconception that everything relied on ABK. The misconception that they don't have anything in the development, that they haven't been investing in games. They haven't been acquiring these other developers and IPs and bolstering those studios, investing in those studios, growing those studios, kicking off different franchises, allowing different kinds of games to be made. This spits in the face of that, saying that it's all pretty much, again, pinned on ABK, and that without ABK, they have to innovate. They have to change. They have to strive for quality now, because ABK isn't going to close, according to GamesIndustry.biz, without any knowledge, actually, of what's going to happen. There's some that believe it'll still close, or some that don't. I don't know what's going to happen, but this is reading almost like it's a done deal based on the CMA decision. And besides that fact, regardless, Phil Spencer again said it's not changing their strategy. ABK was just accelerating it. So his take here is that, Xbox is going to have to completely shift. They're going to have to completely do things differently now. That ABK isn't going to happen because now they're going to finally have to make new games and try and make quality games and innovate and be creative. They're already doing that. Yeah, they may have fallen on their face with the Redfall, but you can't go and dismiss everything else that's going on within Xbox, which happens time and time and time again. The ease with which these journalists actually that are supposed to know about gaming, are supposed to know about the business, and supposed to know about what Microsoft is doing, fails to even realize all the games that they have in development or all the developers that are working on different titles for the platform. It doesn't make any sense to me. And in the past, it has often been in these moments that Microsoft was the most creative, interesting, and to its rivals, threatening. Whipping out the checkbook was, in many regards, the quick and lazy option. What Microsoft does instead, assuming that the Activision Blizzard deal really does end up off the table, will take significant change and upheaval. Significant change. Again, Phil Spencer just spat in that as well. But should buy rights be a bright new chapter for Xbox and for the games business more broadly? The underlying assumption here, of course, is that Microsoft actually remains focused on the games business even after being rebuffed in its acquisition attempt. This almost seems like a slight suggestion that Microsoft would leave the games business if ABK doesn't close. Again, basically denying what the CEO of Microsoft is saying regarding the business of Microsoft and what's going to happen after if ABK does get blocked. As Chris Dring pointed out last week, the notion that Microsoft is just playing about in the games business and could become bored in the face of any failure is one that has dogged the Xbox since its early days. I would agree with that. There's a lot of, there was some smoke to that actually in the Xbox One generation. Early on, Xbox was an experiment. I would say the heavy focus on Xbox since the Phil Spencer era, the heavy focus and doubling down on the investment in games has kind of proven any of that wrong. You don't go from trying to acquire a $70 billion company to just being like, oh, well, we tried. You don't go and buy like all those other studios, kick off all these projects, have the CMA block a deal that you tried to for $70 billion and be like, well, fuck it. I guess we just can't do anything. So we're just going to like let go of gaming. There were points where it was a reasonable fear. The original Xbox was kind of a weird guerrilla effort within Microsoft that sat uncomfortably alongside the rest of the businesses, while much later on, there were question marks about how the games business would fit into Satya Nadella's vision for the company's future, as other consumer device businesses like Zune and Windows were shuttered, and service offerings like Azure and Office 365 came to the fore. Xbox didn't just survive those tricky periods, however. It embedded itself as a core part of Microsoft's consumer branding and offering, 100%. Yes, they did. That's why they wouldn't get rid of Xbox. Candidly, also positioning itself as a potential major pillar of the Azure business. It is a major pillar of the Azure business. Satya Nadella has even said this. It already is a major pillar. It's actually the best marketing and commercial for Azure. When it comes to the capabilities. Even if Microsoft isn't ultimately allowed to spend $70 billion on buying a game publisher, the fact that it was willing to do so and willing to fight the case for doing so to skeptical regulators and competition authorities that have been Microsoft's bête noire in the past remains an important data point. If you don't say so. Microsoft is many things, but fickle generally isn't one of them. Going from being willing to make by far the largest acquisition in its corporate history one day to saying, nah, we don't care about that sector now, the next is kind of a whiplash-inducing U-turn that you might see from a company like Google, but which would be extremely unusual and consequently disturbing for shareholders from a more steady long-term focus like Microsoft. So why even discuss it? It's so irrelevant. at Forte, this is gamesindustry.biz article dropped 2 days ago from Rob Fahey. If you think it's like ridiculous, why even spend 2 paragraphs acknowledging this or even adding fuel to its fire? Or 3 paragraphs? I just don't even understand these kind of articles. It is so misleading, filled with pointless takes and ridiculous assumptions and really crazy off the wall speculation about what could potentially happen. Your game is industry.biz, right? Like you gotta do better. All right, so the Activision Blizzard bid was approved at the highest level of Microsoft's management. And that means that the company's board firmly believes, firmly to the tune of tens of billions of dollars, that it needs a leadership position in the games business as part of its strategic vision for the future. It does not follow, of course, that the cancellation of this bid would mean that Microsoft now has $70 billion lying about to spend on building its games business. That's not remotely how the mathematics of mergers and acquisitions works. That I agree with, 100%. But the determination to succeed in the sector should remain strong, and that should be channeled into other avenues and opportunities. I agree. $70 billion won't just automatically be spent in games if the acquisition fails. Obviously, they have that $3 billion clause that they have to pay to Activision Blizzard if it does fail. Also, they're going to split the rest of that money up in between different categories. In fact, so much so that potentially one of the factors that caused Microsoft's stock to rise and share prices rise once the ABK acquisition was blocked by the CMA, because some are saying that some of the shareholders might actually want them to spend some of that cash in some other sectors, maybe with Bing search engine and other things. However, it would also be naive to say that they're not going to invest any of that $70 billion into gaming as well. I would believe that they would take at least a good portion of that, whatever percentage, and use it to help bolster the gaming strategy, which is still a huge focal point for Microsoft, obviously. He goes on to say, buying a top publisher isn't the only way to establish a strong position in games. Microsoft already has a strong position in games. Yes, you're right. Neither Sony nor Nintendo ever bought a major publisher to cement their market-leading positions. Arguably more relevantly, Microsoft managed to compete very effectively in the 360 generation without such an acquisition. This is almost still relegating the gaming market into consoles. Talking about Microsoft's position, which Microsoft is regarding the CMA acquisition, the CMA arguments and the FTC arguments, because that's what the CMA and the FTC's arguments are against, is the console market and the cloud market, right? That's pretty much what they're focused on. Gaming business is way bigger than consoles. It's way bigger than any one thing. So they're saying, he's basically saying that they competed in the 360 generation. Yeah, they're still competing now, and are actually have a significant portion of the market. In some sectors like Japan and other places in the world, not as much. But regarding their entire gaming business, it's pretty substantially large. It's not as big as Sony, but it's definitely substantial. So they're still competing effectively, just in a different way. Buying a big publisher with some major annual franchises was one way to build out the software pipeline for Xbox, and make up for lagging behind in first-party studio output. But it's clearly not the only way, and might not even have been a particularly good way to accomplish that. So is he basically... let me read this again. Okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure he wasn't... okay. Is bolstering with third-party exclusives a good way? I'm just, like, I want to know, because, you know, Sony's model for getting around the lack of first-party input or output is to invest in third-party exclusive franchises, right? And one could argue owning the studios and the franchises might be a better way, or paying for exclusivity on those games might be a better way. It's not the only way, but you could say it's not a particularly good way to accomplish that. Why? Why would not owning the properties that you're investing in not be a good way to bolster your own output? I don't know. For me, if I have more control and I have things that I own, I would rather focus on those things than have to make deals left and right with third-party companies to bolster. I don't know. That's just an argument. I guess you could say the difference in business models. It goes on to say, one thing that's been a bit lost in the long-running discussions about the ABK bid is just how much risk is involved in the acquisition. Integrating two big companies isn't a simple task. Corporate and workplace cultures differ significantly. Leadership styles and priorities often clash, and overlapping functions, while providing some opportunity for cost saving, also create friction and potential discontent. I can agree with that. You don't know 100% how things are going to work after an acquisition. The bigger the merger, the trickier things get. Microsoft is a gigantic company by comparison to ABK, but the Xbox division that would really be absorbing the publisher is not. And there would inevitably be conflict and jostling for position as the new merged identity of the two organizations came into being. I don't really think so. I think that Microsoft would be pretty much in control here. Like, yeah, you're going to have change-ups, and these things take a while to happen. But to act like it's some huge problem that's not going to get ironed out once the acquisition happens is ridiculous. There is also inherent risk to any major change to a popular consumer IP. Okay, game franchises decline and die all the time. Keeping them successful and relevant for year after year after year is a very specific talent that not many companies do especially well. With the best will in the world, the inevitable upheaval of a major games industry acquisition is almost making the argument for Microsoft, almost that like there's no guarantee that Call of Duty is always going to be relevant. Anyway, with the best will in the world, the inevitable upheaval of a major games industry acquisition can easily end up destroying IP value simply by accident. It has happened many times before, to the point where many gamers assume by default that big acquisitions will ultimately kill the identity and quality of studios and franchises they love. Do we assume that by default? That's a curious question. I'm actually curious. Like, when an acquisition happens of an IP, of a game studio or a publisher, do we assume by default that that IP is just going to be destroyed? I don't assume that. In fact, a lot of times I actually have the reverse effect, and I get excited about more investment into some of those properties. I haven't seen this concern about any of the other franchises they've acquired and own. Like, oh my God, Fallout's going to be destroyed now. Oh my God, Elder Scrolls is going to be destroyed now. I don't really see a lot of that concern. I guess he's talking about Call of Duty. It has happened many. Oh, I already read that. Nonetheless, Xbox needs games in the pipeline, so what are the alternatives? Nintendo and Sony both went the long way around. Nintendo built its first-party studio system almost entirely in-house, while Sony has done so by partnering closely with third-party developers and then acquiring them once the working relationship was already well established. Oh, organic. Sounds like a playground situation to me. Anyway, neither of those is as fact as buying a big publisher, but they don't have to be slow either. And with good leadership and strategic direction, you can end up with not only a robust studio system, but with an incredibly valuable stable of original IP. Is there any consideration here that Sony like really can't buy a major publisher? If it was easy for Sony to acquire Square Enix, do we think that might have already happened? Do you think Sony wants to have to rely on making third-party content deals all the time, and where there's no guarantee about the future? Or do you think they would rather own the properties that they're investing in? Why are they so scared and desperate about Call of Duty? Because they spent so much money investing in Call of Duty these last 10 years. Now, they might not get all to keep reaping the benefits and rewards of their investment because Microsoft would all of a sudden be the go-to platform potentially for those games. All right. So neither of those is as fast as buying a big publisher, but they don't have to be slow either. And with good leadership and strategic direction, you can end up with not only a robust studio system, but with an incredibly valuable stable of original IP. I agree with that. You can. And Sony's been doing good with that. Like Sony has one first-party game this year. Yet nobody seems to care because they also have Final Fantasy 16. What else they have this year for sure? Somebody list me 4 big Sony exclusive original IP games this year. I would like 4 because that would be 1 a quarter, which is Microsoft's goal. I think so, Chio. Spider-Man 2, first party, or not only first party, but third party even. If you want to include third party in there. Is Silent Hill 2 a guarantee for this year? Even if you throw third party exclusives in there. You have, for what I know off the top of my head right now, you have Final Fantasy 16. You have Spider-Man 2. So you say Forspoken, right? Would you consider Forspoken an incredibly valuable stable of original IP? Forspoken was a failure for Square Enix. It was a failure for Sony. They marketed it like it was first party. They marketed it like crazy. But Forspoken isn't valuable to them. Not now. It's just as good of a flop as Redfall was. Well, I see Forte. The reason I'm bringing it up, he says, with good leadership and strategic direction, you can end up with not only a robust studio system, but with an incredibly valuable stable of original IP. Okay, yeah, I get that, but what is that doing for them this year? If the argument is the output, in this article saying that Microsoft does not have enough output, what is that incredibly robust studio system with an incredibly valuable stable of original IP doing for Sony this year? I would say it's not doing a lot of things for them this year. It seems like they can run into problems just like Microsoft can with output. Focusing on studios one by one can also ameliorate risk. By comparison with the games industry generally not great track record with acquisitions, Sony's studio purchases in recent years have been remarkable for their success rate. I agree with that. Creating an effective working relationship for a buyout deal helps to ensure that studios generally stay happy, productive, and creative even after being acquired or potentially closed, as in recent events. Moreover, this approach encourages the broader company to function as a kind of umbrella under which many different creative cultures can thrive, which is a much better incubator for innovation than the more rigid corporate monoculture that would be encouraged by the sheer financial weight and attendant expectations and risk of a single huge acquisition. So this is discounting everything that Microsoft has already done this generation with all of the other studios that they have. Many that they've already had long working relationships with and established relationships with, much like Sony has with a lot of their acquisitions. You can say Double Fine has a long history with Xbox, making games for Xbox Live Arcade in the 360 era. Marketing deals like crazy. Is that not organic enough for you in investing in a studio and having this relationship build over time? How about Bethesda? You can even go directly there. Morrowind and Oblivion were exclusives to the Xbox platform, going back to the original Xbox days. You can go past all of this and even look at a studio like Playground, where they did invest in Playground significantly, and they were a second-party studio for a long time, making exclusive games for Xbox, where they got acquired as well. State of Decay, Undead Labs, they made Xbox exclusives. They were one of the acquisitions here. You can go on and on. There's several different examples of different acquisitions that Microsoft has made over the last few years that are due to working relationships that they've had with these companies over long periods of time. Are we not accounting for any of that and the fact that they have all these studios and these different IPs that they're investing in and growing these studios, and also the IPs that they own that are going to help the pipeline for Xbox? Again, everything with Xbox is not relegated to ABK. Microsoft has said this themselves. Phil Spencer said this himself. ABK is an accelerant. It's not the end all be all. They already have all these other things they've done. Making these acquisitions has been a core part of it to help grow and bolster the first party lineup. This year, we're finally starting to see the results of that, and it's going to continue in the years to come. To say that one model is better than the other when they pretty much have been doing the same thing, minus not being able to acquire a company like ABK, is Sony allowed to acquire studios they have working relationships with, but Microsoft is not? Why is the studios that PlayStation has acquired make more sense for PlayStation than the studios that Xbox has acquired? Can they answer that? I highly doubt it. Moving on, because it just gets better. Of course, Microsoft has already been doing this for some time, buying independent studios, picking up pre-rolled set of high-quality studios through its acquisition of ZeniMax, and building up some internal first-party capacity along the way. But it's hard to escape that the sense that the looming Activision Blizzard deal had relegated those efforts to being last year's toys. My fuck. I'm sorry, I keep pausing. But this is just, I said it gets better. Again, it's hard to escape the sense that the looming Activision Blizzard deal had relegated those efforts to being last year's toys, robbed of the attention and importance they deserved. That's like a speechless like sentence right there. So you're basically saying that like, hey, they're just like done fiddling around with all these studios they acquired these last several years. They're like all the investment that they've been putting into all these things. ZeniMax, Bethesda, Obsidian, who's growing Grounded and making Avowed. Double Fine, who we already have heard from Tim Schafer, is pitching new IPs to Xbox. You want to bring up Arcane's flop that Microsoft should have been more attentive to that. That's a fair statement. But everything else along the way here, to say that it's like last year's toys, we're getting Starfield this year as well. Hellblade 2 is still right around the corner. Is that last year's toy? I am so confused about this. Is Hellblade 2 being robbed of the attention and importance that it deserves? What the hell is going on here? I've wondered a few times in the past year whether the weakness in Xbox software lineup has been, in the past year, again, you want to say 2022? Yeah, that's fair. Has been partially down to the companies viewing the ABK deal as a cure-all. A panacea for, I don't know what that word is, for the platform's woes, that meant there was no real need to make a serious push with existing resources. This, again, continuing to discount everything Microsoft has worked on the last several years with all these other acquisitions. Like they don't matter, like they don't exist, like the games that they're making aren't going to make a difference. We're already seeing benefits to what Microsoft has been doing with the acquisition and the games that have been coming out. This year, Redfall was a huge letdown, but it doesn't change everything else they've been doing. All these other studios, it is so frustrating as somebody that follows the Xbox business and follows the games and follows the news, follows all this stuff, to realize how many games they have in development, how many projects they're working on, how many third-party deals they have made, how much investment into Game Pass, how much they're growing the Xbox studios that they've acquired. Multiple studios now are working on multiple projects where they used to be one game studios. All these different facts are completely just like ignored and disregarded as something belittling as last year's toys in this article. Microsoft owns multiple studios with world-class track records. The ability to drop a great game like Hi-Fi Rush on the market with little fanfare shows that it's already possible with the resources at its disposal. Yes! So why would you discount it so much? They've already doing it. Nothing is changing with the model that they've already been working on. But missing the mark badly with Redfall shows how easily those resources and talents can be squandered. 100%, such as with every first-party studio and every publisher out there. The same thing happened with Days Gone. And if you want to praise the third-party deals that Sony's making to bolster their lineup of exclusives, you have to account for failures like Babylon's Fall and Forspoken and first-party games like Destruction All-Stars and that as well. You can't say that one publisher, one platform holder, it's a huge deal when they have one game that's bad. But it doesn't matter for the others. Diminishing consumer confidence in Xbox as a platform for high-quality exclusives is a problem. I agree with that when a game like Redfall happens. But arguably more insidious is the problem of keeping talented creatives motivated and passionate when they don't feel like the structure that they're working within allows them to achieve their full potential. That is a complete crazy insinuation right there. Let me read this sentence again, because this is insinuating that the workplace and the structure of Microsoft basically is causing a problem within the studios that they are unable to fulfill their creative dreams because of this huge corporate conglomerate that's overshadowing them and overstructuring them. So it's more insidious. Using a word insidious. Like, I want to read the description. Let me read the description of insidious. Okay. Because this is a journalist, a writer. Okay. So you got to know the actual words that you're using here. Awaiting a chance to entrap. One is okay. Having a gradual and cumulative effect. Okay, you can say that could be a thing. Awaiting a chance to entrap. I'll give him a pass. Insidious. Okay, fair. I think if Insidious is horrible, maybe it's not as bad as it sounds. Okay. Anyway, let me find my spot again because I just lost it. Yeah, more insidious is the problem of keeping talented creatives motivated and passionate when they don't feel like the structure that they're working within allows them to achieve their full potential. And Forte, I agree with you 100%. There's been a lot of people extremely happy this year before Redfall, though. And knowing what's down the pipeline, they can't allow things like Redfall to happen. I am not making excuses for Redfall. What I'm looking at is the bigger picture here. And the misinformation and this doom and gloom overarching theme that is permeated from journalists insinuating things, having double standards, and we'll get into more double standards in a little bit, across their vision of what Microsoft and Xbox is versus the other platforms out there. That sentence is just ridiculous to me. Like, you've heard a lot of praise. Now you can look at like studios like 343 and stuff like that just haven't been working. But when you look at like overall, like the studio cultures from a lot of these studios that have been acquired, they've been extremely positive and happy so far. We've set to see a lot of their games because they're still in development, but they're working on them. Nobody is more disappointed by a bad, rushed, or poorly conceived game than the developers who worked on it. I would agree with that 100%. But is that Microsoft's fault? It's like, yes, Microsoft has the ultimate, complete, final say-so when these games come out. But it's like he's saying that Microsoft caused the problem with Redfall because they exist, and Redfall would have been a better game if Microsoft didn't own them. Is like almost what he's insinuating here. Would Redfall have been given the time, attention, and resources it needed to live up to Arcane's former standards if Xbox division had not been distracted from the hard work of building its studio capacity by dreaming of simply buying the biggest possible hammer to crush its rivals? Perhaps not. Microsoft, Phil Spencer himself said that they should have paid more attention to Arcane instead of leaving them alone. They should have had their engineers go in earlier to like see if they could get the 60 frames mode going and stuff like that. But they also alluded to like the studio just not meeting on their creative vision, right? Like they like the further delay wouldn't have helped that. I don't like Microsoft should have delayed it, in my opinion, and given it more time to be able to meet at least the quality standards that they should have. Does that automatically make it a good game if they have done that? I don't know. But to say that it's almost like insinuating, he's insinuating here that it's Microsoft's fault. That if Microsoft hadn't bought Arcane, that Arcane would have been a better game. Or it's like, I don't understand what he's trying to say. Perhaps not. But it's fair to wonder if behind the public anger Microsoft is expressing over the CMA's ruling, there might not be quite a few people in the company's existing studios feeling quietly happy that the focus of efforts to build Xbox's software pipeline and major franchises will now return to them. Talking to insiders at the company gives some insight, but it's hard to know for sure just how much oxygen was being sucked out of the room by the ABK bid. So why talk about, like... Anyway, still, the gap between what was expected from Microsoft's acquisitions over the past 5 years or so, all of which have been pretty great companies and studios to buy, at least at face value, and what has actually been delivered in terms of quality and quantity of software is undeniable. Something isn't working as it should. Yeah, the games that are still not out yet, you fucking idiot. I'm sorry, Rob. just saying. They're making these games. Ghostwire Tokyo, Deathloop, both were in development. They came out. Obsidian has come out with Grounded, which has become a very big success for them. You have a small project like Pentiment that they seem really happy about. Hi-Fi Rush dropped from Tango Gameworks as well, which was a success as well. You have Compulsion's game still not done yet, and Exile has other projects in the works. Wasteland 3 did come out and was also a critical success as well. You have several of these studios that have been acquired that have yet to release their new games. However, you can't discount everything as it's been like a failure, and you can't discount the games that are just still in development. We are yet to see the value of a lot of these titles. Psychonauts 2 was one of these also that dropped to critical acclaim. It won some Game of the Year awards from different places, and they have been on record as saying how much the acquisition of Microsoft actually helped benefit that game. You want to say quantity in 2022 is very fair. You want to talk about quality? The only quality issue here is one game, and that's Redfall. There has not been a quality issue. Well, I'll say content with Halo Infinite as well. Halo Infinite launched to some critical acclaim. It was a great launch. Besides the fact it had some missing content, it reviewed well. People liked the story. People loved the gameplay and the multiplayer. They just completely screwed the pooch on content and after game support on that, and that helped kill the game. Right? I mean, it helped kill the game. It's still alive, you know, but like, you want to talk about, that's a content issue. You want to say quantity of software, 2022, that's fair. But that's equally a problem, again, for PlayStation, which you were saying earlier, you're so happy with. And that's why you're playing it so more. Well, what about your quantity this year? And you want to add on to that, what about your quality this year? Because you've had one big exclusive third-party release this year so far, and that was Forspoken, which was asked to a lot of people. Unless, am I missing something else third-party that's released so far? I could be. I don't recall. But regardless, like, it's such a double standard. Double standards permeate through gaming journalists when it comes to Xbox, when it comes to big bad Microsoft. All right, where was I? Let's see. Still, the gap was expected from Microsoft's acquisitions of the past 5 years. Okay, I already read this part. Okay, something isn't working as it should, and even if the focus on buying Activision isn't the underlying cause of that problem, it certainly seems to have distracted attention from fixing it. Okay, I think we're still on the fence on that. This year so far, besides Redfall, has been pretty damn good. So there wasn't a lot of complaints from Xbox fans about quality and quantity of games before Redfall. Not for 2023. We're all on a high. Without that acquisition on the table, which assumes that the appeal of the CMA's decision fails in order that European Commissioner FTC also decides to block the deal, we should hopefully see the existing internal studio system starting to deliver more consistent results. Yeah, because the games have been in development. Like, that's just when they're going to come out. Like, that's just, yes. Phil Spencer also said that in the interview. He actually had a sigh of relief. He was like, finally. You know, and he was also like, we've already seen that this year. You know, Redfall is a big L for us. But besides that, yes, this year, I think we've already seen that. And he goes on to say, and yes, we're confident we're going to hit one a quarter. This is regardless, and this is still with the ABK acquisition looming. To say that ABK has caused them, like, almost like he's saying ABK has caused game delays, is almost what he's insinuating. He's insinuating that ABK has caused Microsoft to not pay attention to their studios. It's causing game delays. It's also insinuating that Microsoft is like killing the creative juices in the studios almost because of one game failure. Anyway, along with the return of Microsoft's appetite for smaller, smarter acquisitions that fill in the gaps in its studio lineup and software pipeline. I think that's still coming anyway. That is one good point here. That if you want to say ABK has affected anything, it's been the fact that they haven't been able to do more acquisitions because ABK is looming. I mean, that you could point to that. Other than that, like, there's really, like, yeah, you could say Phil Spencer's probably stretched thin. He's probably at its wit's end dealing with these regulators. But overall, like, is it hurting the pipeline? ABK? It can affect the acquisitions would have happened over the last a year and a half almost. But beyond that, I don't really think so. Man, this is... Sorry, we're getting into the juicier parts here. Investment in IP will be key because Xbox needs big exclusive franchises beyond Halo and Forza. What about Gears? Okay. Wonderful as both those are, the platform needs to branch out beyond them if it's to grow effectively. I argue that, okay, Starfield, Elder Scrolls, Fallout, that's just a few off the top of my head. Perfect Dark, Fable, there's a couple more. State of Decay. There's several different big franchises coming out. Avowed is going to probably be a big IP. They got Outer Worlds is a pretty big IP as well that they're working on. Anyway, sorry. I argued last week that on the grounds of the console market alone, there was no reason to block the ABK deal, and I still think that's true. But that doesn't mean it would necessarily have been good for Microsoft or for the Xbox platform, or indeed for the fans of that platform. I could agree with that. I don't really care if the ABK deal gets approved, other than the fact that it's going to save me some money. Those games are going to be playable on the Xbox regardless, either way, for the most part. Other than that, I don't care. It's going to make Xbox more money, which in turn might make us get more investment even into the gaming side. I don't think it's going to kill everything they've been doing, though. It goes on to say, on the contrary, it's good for game consumers and for the broader industry if Microsoft is redoubling its efforts to innovate, to create successful new IP. And perhaps to nurture great third-party studios with a view to buying them in the future. That's how about Avalanche? Are they doing that with potentially Contraband? That's a brighter prospect than spending tens of billions to shortcut the process by turning some long-in-the-tooth multi-platform franchises into Xbox exclusives. Also, part of what they want to do with ABK, and Phil Spencer said himself on this, is to invest in IP, dormant IP that could be good for the brand. Again, not doing the research and acknowledging what Phil Spencer said. So there's more than just Call of Duty at play here for Microsoft, but it is. I'll give him a pass on that one. Microsoft will be sore and angry about its deal blocking for a while. And comments made by Phil Spencer in an interview with Kinda Funny Games this week suggest that at least some of the Xbox leadership isn't convinced that the software pipeline is their core problem. Duh. This idea, and he goes there, here comments, quotes Phil's comment. So it's about to get really good, guys. This idea that if we just focus... This is Phil's comment. This idea that if we just focus more on great games on our console, that somehow we're going to win the console race, doesn't really lay into the reality of most people. Spencer said in the interview, which is simultaneously true and almost misses the point. It's true in the sense that having great games on a console really isn't enough to win. It's table stakes, not a winning hand. It misses the point, though, because there's no such thing as a winning hand if you haven't put down the table stakes. What? Spencer knows that, of course, and you can reasonably read his comments as a frustrated response to being told, have better games so often, but Microsoft is actually getting almost everything except for the games right, which means that the answer to its woes genuinely is to focus more on great games for its console. Console, yes, but also the games come out for the entire ecosystem, not just the console. So the games come out on the cloud, they come out on the console, they come out on PC. So to Phil Spencer's point, when he's addressing these questions, he's reiterating the fact that Microsoft and the Xbox is bigger than just the console. Console is a core focus. He said he also understands that console users should be treated like first class because we're the biggest money spenders and investors in the ecosystem, right? But to discount things into the necessity to win the console market is not a necessity for Microsoft. And that's where Phil Spencer's going with his comments. Good quality games, as he said in the interview, is key to their strategy and what they need to do with their whole ecosystem. So anyway, moving on. Spencer has been an incredibly effective public voice for Xbox and really brought the platform back from the brink after the wilderness days of the Xbox One. But if the Xbox leadership right now doesn't think that consistently delivering high-quality software on the platform is its absolute top priority, then the Xbox leadership has lost focus and needs to change, either by rethinking its strategy or by making way for new leadership that can. This is the comment that is spreading like crazy on Twitter right now. Because GameIndustry.biz took out this segment of the article and posted it on Twitter with a link to this article. Let me read this one again, because this is extreme words here. Spencer has been an incredibly effective public voice for Xbox and really brought the platform back from the brink after the wilderness days of the Xbox One. But if the Xbox leadership right now doesn't think that consistently delivering high-quality software on the platform is its absolute top priority, then the Xbox leadership has lost focus and needs to change, either by rethinking a strategy or by making ways for new leadership that can. I gotta ask, when did Phil Spencer say that delivering high-quality games isn't his top priority? In fact, he reiterated that in the article, in the interview. Before the comment that he's quoting and misinterpreting because comprehension skills are very lacking. Phil Spencer reiterated time and time again about they can't have instances like Redfall happen. They can't have those situations. They that he's putting the onus on him and he's taking the blame. It's his fault and all this stuff. Where he's talking about the console market and their effectiveness in being able to outsell Sony and Nintendo is irrelevant of the importance of quality games for Microsoft's strategy. I disagree some with Phil in the regard of the console market, just in the fact that I do think they can make bigger strides there. I think that if they have great games come out consistently and keep the pace up, and I think ultimately that will make a bigger shift than he thinks it will for the console market, but that's still irrelevant to the bigger picture of Microsoft's vision and delivering quality games to a subscription service that permeates console, cloud, and PC. This is running with the theme that's been misinterpreted and for lack of comprehension going around the internet the last couple days after Phil's article. Like he said, quality games aren't important. That is not what the man said, point blank. And if you need to go watch the whole interview again, watch the entire thing. Don't take that one comment that you see or one quote without all the context of everything else that happened in that article or that interview, because there's so much misinformation being spread. And again, double down here with a paragraph like this from big websites like GamesIndustry.biz. He goes on to say what the Xbox leadership needs to be delivering is a Microsoft that is hungry, smart, and focused, with an insatiable appetite for great new games and IPs. I agree with that. I think that's what we all want. But to say that they're not already trying there and have stumbled out the gates somewhat with game delays and one lackluster game. Because that Microsoft is a much better competitor than one that's gorged itself to the point of insensibility on a huge publisher. A Microsoft that's lost focus on its own capacity for innovation and creativity in favor of using its checkbook to lock up exclusivity for IPs it did not create. Okay, let me checkbook to lock up exclusivity for IPs it did not create. My God, who does that sound like, everybody? What other company can you think of that this man is enjoying right now with their incredible pipeline of one first-party game this year? What other company uses their checkbook to lock up exclusivity for IPs it did not create? What other company, again, uses its checkbook to lock up exclusivity for IPs it did not create? I'm having a hard time. It's not really coming to mind. Is getting exclusivity on IPs you don't create okay, or is it not? I'm confused because a lot of this article told me you can't do that, but also a lot of this article said that that's great and that's what they should be doing because it's great. It bolsters the lineup. I'm so confused right now. I don't understand. How can you? What? Did Sony create? What's the latest article about Metal Gear? Rumors about Metal Gear being exclusive again. Did they create Metal Gear? Did they create Silent Hill? That's another exclusive? Did they create Knights of the Old Republic? No, that's another exclusive. Did they create Spider-Man? No, they didn't create Spider-Man either. Did they create Forspoken? No. Did they create Final Fantasy? No. At what point does the double standard in your own article not become apparent to yourself? If Xbox can't buy its way to dominance, it will just have to compete its way there instead. Okay, Colin. And that's reason for optimism, because given the company's track record and resources, the prospect should make its fans excited and its rivals wary. That's the article. The long article. I took a lot of breaks through it. Apologize for the amount of times I stopped. But this article is a holy shit for me because of its blatant double standard, just completely all the way through the article. Like, it just completely, not only double standard, but ignorance to everything that's happening at Microsoft and has been happening at Microsoft, on over exaggeration of how much ABK is going to affect Microsoft within the decisions that they've already been making as well. This potential narrative that thrown out there, like Microsoft, I'm not saying they're going to get out of the games business, but, like, people are saying that. I mean, come on. Like, there's so much double standard praising the same things that Sony's doing with Sony, but also when it comes to Microsoft spending their money, you know what? It's not the way to do things. You can't do it. No, you can't buy these other studios. You can't do that stuff. You know what? Like, Sony's doing it right, making the smart decisions, getting all these things up, because our pipeline this year is so fucking amazing on Sony. I mean, God, our pipeline of one first-party game. Oh my God, this pipeline of one game is so substantial and great that I can't believe that how great it is on Sony's side to have one first-party game all fucking year. It's incredible. I'm so relishing in the quantity and quality of this great output from our Lord and Savior PlayStation. At what point did you acknowledge that PlayStation had a problem this year? And if you got a problem with the checkbook to fill in the void for games that they don't own, well, how about them using it for PlayStation this year? And even then, it's not fucking enough because it's only one game that I can even think of on the top of my head right now. What's going on in games media, everybody? This is just one example of multiple years of this kind of shit. One example of multiple years of these kind of fucking articles over and over again, having double standards about what PlayStation does compared to what Microsoft does, when a lot of it is the same damn thing in regards to acquiring studios and investing in games. The only difference is Microsoft's got a little bit more money. They're going faster. They're doing more. Are they going to win the console race? No. Is it the most important thing to Microsoft to win the console race? No. Microsoft's in another ballpark here with a lot more people they're going after. Whose monthly active users were down despite it selling 30% more consoles? How do you sell 30% more consoles? Have a fucking record-breaking console sales a quarter, more than any company in history, yet less people are playing your games than last quarter? Like, how does that happen? That's what's happening with Sony. Why isn't there this fake concern going on around them? We got to marvel at this amazing output this year that Sony's providing for all of us with these great quality games in 2023. I mean, Spider-Man 2 and hold on, let me think. I'm all thinking of, oh, I'm sorry. I guess I got to rewrite this whole fucking article because all my points are invalid and stupid. Or I'll just put it out there because the editor's going to approve it anyway. How about this? Do you think PSVR 2 might have been a distraction for Sony instead of ABK for Microsoft? What is this year? Wait, I talked about this late last year. I said 2023 for Sony was going to be the year of PSVR, right? They're going to really go down on this. How about the talk of that being a massive flop and their investment into PSVR being completely wasted because it's only to a small niche market and other resources could have been utilized towards acquiring more small studios to make great content and exclusive games for your fucking PlayStation. How about that? You want to talk about ABK? How about PSVR 2 shitting the bed, wasting their time? $550. Mav, what about MLB? You're right. They did release MLB The Show, but you got to remember, Jasper, he's talking about exclusives. And guess what? MLB The Show is on Game Pass. And guess what? MLB The Show costs PlayStation consumers $70. And with Game Pass, you get it for the low price of $9.99 per month if you already have Xbox Live Gold, or you can get it for $15 a month. It's Xbox Live Gold included. Also includes EA Play. Take a sip of water. I need one. Holy shit. It's fucking hot in here. Super chat from Pharaoh2525 OG Gaming for $5. Appreciate you. Question. Name me one first-party title has Sony dropped in 2023. Yeah, I hear crickets also. I hear crickets. They've released MLB The Show. It's a first-party title. It's not an exclusive, and his article very much discussed exclusives. So MLB The Show is the only first-party game I think they released this year. Third-party, they had Forspoken, which was a heavily marketed... They marketed Forspoken as much as Microsoft marketed Redfall. Like, Forspoken was a big deal for them. Didn't go as planned, did it? OCD Gamer says, let's have a poll. Is PSVR 2 a good business decision? I actually, like, I don't care that they've invested into PSVR 2 personally. I'm glad people are. I just think their business behind it is stupid. That it's not gonna be a successful thing for them. I'm glad they're pushing the technology forward at the expense of their rest of their customers potentially. I'll go ahead and make this poll. Hold on real quick. Is PSVR 2 a good business decision? All right, there's the poll. That's crazy articles. Now, I got a question. Who's got a bigger problem? Microsoft, who's trying to do what they're trying to do, they made slip-ups. You can't excuse a situation like Redfall, right? This is not an excuse for Redfall. It's just acknowledging a double standard that exists within games media. Who has the bigger problem here? Articles and games media that has to make stupid articles like this in order to stay in business, that completely erode the confidence in gaming journalism, period. With clickbaity, nonsensical, misinterpreted, misinformed, with lack of comprehension articles. Is that a bigger problem than what Microsoft has right now with everything that's coming? You know what we'll be doing after Starfield drops, and then the next game drops, and the next game drops, and the next game drops? We ain't going to be talking about Redfall. It'll be a moment in time. As much as when Spider-Man 2 comes out for PlayStation, Forspoken was just a thing that happened. It's a big deal right now because it just happened, and we were looking forward to that game, and it didn't meet the expectations. But going forward, Microsoft's not going to have this lack of content problem. So if there's a random failure like that, it's not going to come across as like, oh shit, right? It's going to come across as like, that one sucked, much like Forspoken did for PlayStation. I don't see all the articles criticizing PlayStation's output this year. I don't see all the articles criticizing their using their checkbook to invest in third-party exclusive games to bolster their lineup, especially when some of them suck ass. If you bought Babylon's Fall, which is a PlayStation exclusive that was marketed by PlayStation at some of their shows, I'm sorry, you can't even play that shit now. They had to shut down the servers because it sucks so much that nobody bought it. It's just reality. Besides the fact that first party is great. I love first party. It helps sell a platform. It helps sell an ecosystem. But much like we learned in the Xbox One generation, that's not all that people play. I forgot another first party game that came out this year for Microsoft was Minecraft Legends. At Minecraft, you had High on Life. You had Age 2 so far. Ghostwire came out into Game Pass finally. It would have been exclusive if it wasn't for that Sony contract. Redfall flop. It was like 4 or 5 games this year, first party for Xbox. We talked earlier this year at the pipeline potentially for 2023 for Xbox, and we thought it was possible they could have 10 games. It's still possible. Maybe 10 games this year. To Sony's 1, and we talk about Xbox has a fucking quantity problem. In what world is that a quantity problem? Right? You want to say quality? Fine, throw Redfall in there, right? I'm just stating facts. I'm not lying about anything. Everything I'm saying is actually based on the reality of what's happening right now. How many games are in development at Microsoft? How many games are in development at all these studios? What's Compulsion working on? In Exile working on? id working on? Machine Games working on? They got Indiana Jones is one of them. In Exile, Obsidian, I mean, you can just go down the list. There's a shit ton of them. PlayStation's got games coming too, right? So it just is what it is. But you can't just look at one platform, say you got a huge quantity problem, and then look at the other platform that has the equal problem this year. You remember, if you want to go back to 2 years, 2021 was not a quantity or quality problem for Xbox. We were celebrating, wow, this is great. Gaming's great on Xbox in 2021. 2022 sucked. So where is that same level of attention when we had the huge disappointments of Starfield's delay and Redfall's delay that created the 2022 that we had? Where is that same attention for what PlayStation has in store for the PlayStation consumer for 2023? It's a double standard again and again and again. If Spider-Man 2, remember the last time they had their financial reports from PlayStation, they called it Q4, or sorry, they called it, I think they called it Q4 2023 for this year. That's no guarantee. There's no guarantee right now that Spider-Man 2 is even hitting this year. They say it's supposed to. There's not 100% guarantee right now because we don't have a release date. You want to permeate. I keep saying the damn word permeate. Why is that in my head so much? I don't even know if I'm using it right. What is I got to look up the definition of permeate. Why the fuck do I keep saying permeate? It's like one of those things. Sometimes a word just gets put in your head and you just keep fucking saying it for some reason. You don't know why. Permeate. Penetrate, profuse, suffuse, run through, steep, impregnate, inform. Okay. I guess I'm using it somewhat right. Yeah. If you want to cement the fact of the double standard into gaming media, then all you have to do is look at game reviews as well. And I'm not talking about specifically like scores, one platform versus the other. You can make a thing about that, but I'm talking about the double standards with picking and choosing what games to be upset about certain technical issues and not. Lord Ruffness hit a $5 super chat. Appreciate you. It says, but Mav, where are the write-ups about how PS hardly had any games coming out this year? Their 2023 will be worse than Xbox's 2022. I would say Spider-Man alone, if it does hit this year, is way better than the 2022 that Xbox had, because Spider-Man 2 is a much bigger game and it's going to be an exciting moment, which Xbox just failed to have any of the big exciting moments for first-party releases in 2022. So I would say that, but I agree there should be talk about the lack of quantity, because that's what this article, that's one of the things this article is talking about, right? And to your point, Lord Ruffness, like, there's no articles about it. Like, if you talk about amount of releases and quantity, Xbox had more first party last year than is slated for PlayStation. In a year that was supposed to be horrible for Xbox and with quantity. They didn't have any of the big games for sure, right? They all got delayed, and Redfall should have been delayed another year. But it's still, to your point, like, there's the quantity thing is an issue for PlayStation. And if PlayStation wants to say, well, our third-party exclusive deals are kind of like first-party because they're with our deep relationships with these developers, and we use that as our business model to bolster our lineup. Well, if that's the case, well, then the games like Forspoken and Babylon's Fall and these other releases that you have for third-party games that come out on your system and they flop and they're huge, massive failures, and you sold them for $70 and people didn't like the game, that doesn't lead to a credibility of quality either, does it? Because those games, if that's your model, right? If that's your model that you're using to bolster your lineup, they got to count for the quality as well. Because you can't just invest in shitty games to bolster your lineup. Double standard. Going into that. Games media. Another reason they suck right now. And gaming journalism is dead with any kind of credibility, except for a few websites that do a good job. game reviews are broken. The overall system is just downright flawed. Redfall deserved its scores, right? Redfall absolutely deserved everything. This is not in any defense of Redfall. Redfall came out unfinished. It was unpolished. Microsoft should have delayed it until at least it was a polished bad experience. But you can't give a game a pass when it's good for technical issues, right? Like if a game is good and has horrible technical issues and you don't mention them in your articles and your reviews, it makes me question the credibility of what you're saying and writing, because you can't lambast a game in article after article after article, a review from all these different sites about the same technical issues that another game has, and not mention those at all. Redfall was how they did it properly and actually went through and talked about the issues that the game had. Jedi Survivor, all the reviews came out. There's like a hint occasionally, oh, there's some technical issues, blah, blah, blah. Well, turns out when the game dropped, it was fucking broken for a lot of people. You can't even play it. Like, massive performance issues. The performance mode on console sucked so bad. They should have delayed it. Jedi Survivor should have been delayed, just like Redfall should have. A lot of PC users had multiple crashing issues. Even on console, there's still crashing issues. There's screen tearing, HDR is broken, audio issues, pixelation issues, extremely low res in performance mode, inconsistent frame rates. All these different things permeate throughout Jedi Survivor. But very little mention in all the reviews about it. So how are we to take you seriously when we're talking about how amazing this game is, all this stuff, and we're like, yeah, build confidence in it. Yeah, we're gonna all buy this game day one, $70. Ain't gonna worry about a thing. You get the fucking game, it's like crash, performance issues, bugs, pixelation shit, screen tearing, audio's popping in and out. Like, what the hell? How come nobody told me about this? How come nobody said a thing? Yeah, you go and read the Redfall reviews, and it's just full of pointing out those individual issues. And you can look at other games, too. It's not just first party versus third party. You're talking about other games that get passes and other ones don't. They just pick. It's like somebody gets a mass email from somebody like, hey, guys, this is the game that gets the pass. Just remember that. Don't mention this stuff in the review, because don't worry, the game is still good. I'm not saying it should have even affected the scores that much, because if you love it and you can have enough fun with it and get past the issues and have a blast with the game despite the issues, and you feel like it still earns the score that you want to give it, that's cool, man. If you think it would have been a 10, instead you give it like a 9 because of technical issues and it still gets a 9, or even if you think, hey, you know what? I had so much damn fun, I don't even care about the technical issues. But you're doing a disservice to the people out there that might actually give a shit about those technical issues if you don't even mention them. You gotta mention them. You gotta tell people. You gotta tell people about this stuff. I don't understand how that can happen. If you look at the front page of OpenCritic and look at it, I'm just using Redfall as an example because I'm not defending Redfall. I'm using Redfall as an example of how they did it properly. Right? Told people about the issues, informed the consumer, right? That should be the job of the reviewer. Is it not? Like, informed on your opinion on the game, point out stuff like this. If you look at the first page on OpenCritic on like Redfall, it's just technical issues made massively big problem in this game. Technical issues, like every single review, right? If you look at the first page on the OpenCritic of Jedi Survivor, you can maybe find 3 little hints that, you know, there was some technical issues, but overall it was a great game. Like, just glossing over, making it no more situation than every game that comes out, pretty much. Little did we all know, with the thanks of ACG, who actually cares about his integrity, putting out on Twitter about massive issues with Jedi Survivor. that like, everybody's caught off guard. Like, what is he talking about? Nobody else told us this. Like all the other reviews, they just glanced over. What do you mean there's massive problems? And then some other people are like, oh yeah, it has that too. It's like, what? No, how come none of the reviews mention this stuff? Oh, we got a list from EA that it's going to be fixed day one. Don't worry about it. They said they're coming out with a patch. So we just didn't even include that stuff in there. Like, what? So you telling me you actually got a list of the fucking problems that the game has, and yet you still had those problems when you were playing the game, and you failed to mention those to the consumers in which you're trying to review the product for? Like, I don't get it. Just make sure you hold the same games up to a standard of quality. If you have a like technical assumption of what a game should be and how it should perform, and you're going to mention that in some games, mention them at all. At least keep it consistent. That's all I'm asking. Jasper said it himself. Jedi Survivor is more unplayable for him than Redfall. I don't know like what it is more playable for. I played more Jedi Survivor than I had for Redfall. I only played a little bit of Redfall because I'm waiting for an update and a patch on it. But I stopped playing Jedi Survivor because I'm also waiting for a patch and update on that too. It's like double standard and games media is just acceptable across the board. There's no rhyme or reason to it. It depends on whatever Joe Schmo is writing, whatever they want to write. The editors have no standards for what is acceptable within the article for their website, and they just allow it's like a fucking Wild Wild West. What's going to get the most clicks? What's going to cause them the most problems with EA? You gotta, I don't know. Integrity is a thing for me. Like, I gotta say, like, one thing about this channel, like I always told you guys, regardless if you agree with my opinion is always going to be what I say. Like, I'm never going to like hive mind or say what I think is going to get the most attention or say what is going to be more acceptable because I don't want to take an L down the road, or like I'm afraid somebody might capture some kind of receipt from me. Whatever we think is what we're going to say here, right? That's why we're so invested in the Marchers thing, because I actually thought it was a possibility. Remember, we're all March. Yeah, Starfield could happen in March. We believed it. And we didn't care if we took an L on that for the lack of our credibility of, oh, well, people may not trust me in the future if I don't get that right. Integrity is not always being correct. Integrity is saying what you believe and standing behind it. A lack of it in games media. Susa says maybe March of next year. Sorry. Hey, check out the Fun Speculation Tumblr, everybody. Thanks for all hanging out. Take a second. Whew. I still don't have my AC fixed, so it's hot as balls up in here right now. When I sat down to start the stream, it was 84 degrees in this room. I got a fan right here. I got my window open right there. Last night, I accidentally forgot to, well, I didn't forget to. I was not worried about it because we've had numerous storms and the rain doesn't necessarily happen that bad to get in the windows. But last night we had a storm that blew the opposite direction and it was pretty significant. And I left the windows open up here and water got all on the fucking windows by my in my office here and in my daughter's room. I had these curtains there, not curtains. I had a blanket over the window to block out light for content and stuff. They were soaked, absolutely fucking soaked. Carpet was a little wet, like water was on the walls. It's all dry now. It's all good. It was just crazy. Anyway, it's fucking hot in here, but it's cooling down. It's nighttime now. Game Shark with a $2 super chat says Sony showcase coming 2020. That's you're talking about the Twitter shit that everybody shared. That's funny, dude. Everybody was sharing this. Hey, there's a PlayStation showcase coming soon or whatever, and it was a post from 2020. 3-Bit actually shared that in our DMs, and we absolutely roasted him over that. It was greatness. AJH says, I love these streams. It's always just Mav raging at incompetent people. Yeah, it's fun sometimes just to let loose and let off some steam. Yeah, I have fun with these streams too. Oh, thanks, Fahim. Fahim says, forgot happy birthday. Appreciate you, man. Yeah, I'm a man now. I'm 40. Yeah, I think the games media, for the most part, has become incompetent. It used to be really fun to, like, it used to be really fun to go to all the websites. Like, back in the day, you know, I had my list. I went to, like, oneup.com, Kotaku, joystick.com, IGN, Game Informer, you know, like, GameSpot. I had, like, 6 or 7 websites. I just, like, went to every day and had to read all the articles, and then I would check out N4G to see like what smaller websites may have caught on to some small stuff and all these kind of things. I even had for a very small time had a friend on Xbox that had a website, and he asked me to write some stuff, so I even wrote some stuff for him, and one of those articles ended up on the trending page on the front for Xbox on N4G years ago. Thought it was so cool. I didn't keep going with that because I absolutely hate writing. But like I used to be really invested and involved with all that gaming news and stuff, with all these articles, and that was how we stayed up to date in gaming and like with news and all that kind of stuff, man. It was badass. However, along the way, some of those websites shuttered. They started struggling. People started watching content more and more, going to things like YouTube and started streaming services started, so people just started watching people play the games. They needed to be less informed from websites, so they would go to Twitch and just watch somebody play if they wanted to learn about a game. You had less sites altogether, or some of them got acquired by other companies and they were ruined, and you had just disaster fall upon games media, and it was always a sad thing. But the saddest thing for me is not what happened back then. It's what's happened to the sites that have still existed. What's happened to the ones that are still around. The IGNs, the Kotakus, the Game Rants. Have just turned into just complete shit shows of gaming journalism that hold no credibility or integrity or any kind of actual care for the reader. It's more or less just about what can we throw out there that has some attention-seeking headline that's going to get us some major attention, and regardless of what the fucking shit says. And that's what's happened mostly to gaming journalism. Now, there's some exceptions, right? So the exceptions are some of the smaller sites that actually care and are passionate gamers that run these things themselves. Or people that have, you know, they're blog type people, and it's clear they're consistent with their opinions and beliefs and all that stuff. But like these sites that, for the most part, the larger ones that have sustained through all of the downfalls of games media and websites, have turned into bullshit National Enquirer type things for the sake of existence. And it's a shame. Game Shark says, just to make sure, Colin said Redfall wasn't an Xbox game, right? Honestly asking. If he did, he's wrong. I mean, it is an Xbox game. Phil Spencer even took a blame on that. Like, I understand. I'm going to get back to this, Lord. I have it up there, man. Don't worry. The accountability that Phil took with that game was refreshing for me more so than anything else, because it shows that regardless of what we all thought, is that Microsoft themselves feel like they should have been more in tune with what Arcane was making and how the quality of it stood. So for me, that says yes, it's still Microsoft, even though it started before Microsoft acquired them. I'll get to that super chat right now. Little Ruffness with the £5. Appreciate you. Says, yeah, I won't be waiting for the bad Starfield reviews. You know they're ready to go well before release. They're becoming boring now. Yeah, for sure, man. I feel like a lot of the reviews are going to be attention-seeking, you know, clickbait-inducing type reviews. There's going to be a lot of websites that have some integrity and accountability for what they say that'll tell it like it is, whether the game's good or bad, you know, but you're going to have your random ones like the Game Rants of the world probably just give some ridiculous score. It's like almost every week you see some dumb article from Game Rant trying to belittle how big of a game Starfield is, having to prove its worth of existence to games like No Man's Sky. I mean, what the fuck, really? So the last Colin was a joke, since Colin says when the game is successful, it's not an Xbox game. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's the thing too that happens with double standards. When it's a failure, it's the Xbox's fault. When it's a success, it's not Xbox's success. It's because of the people that already had started to work on the game before Xbox took them over. Right now, we can all blame Xbox for Redfall, but remember, Starfield is not an Xbox game. It's Bethesda. Hi-Fi Rush, well, they don't get credit for that. No. Well, not whatsoever. Double standards. Appreciate all the awesome comments in the chat. I'm glad you guys are enjoying the stream. Yeah, we're 17 likes away from hitting 100. Gonna hit 100 on a solo stream. That would be amazing. Appreciate it, guys. Have fun doing these on Sunday nights. I'm glad you guys like to come and hang out and shoot the shit with me and try and put some perspective on what's going on out there in gaming space. I used to have gaming strategy guide books back in the day. Yeah, that was pretty cool. Although I would say they always used to fall apart on me. And my Final Fantasy Tactics strategy guide I had probably had about 50 pages come out of it, but that's okay. I kept them in order, so you pull them out one sheet at a time and looked at them when you're on that section. I miss the strategy guides. I appreciate it, Froggy. A Splendiferous is playing the Street Fighter 6 demo. I have not had a chance to. I am really looking forward to that game, though. I've seen some ridiculous characters. If you have a chance, check out GamePassDad's YouTube short. He has a short of a Street Fighter 6 character that he made. What did I say, Jasper? Did I say something? I don't. What did I say that was TMI? If I said something that was sounded like something else, I don't even know what I said. A fan says, I've bought over 10 games that left Game Pass, and if a Game Pass game has story DLC, it's a must to have if I play a said game. Mutant Hero Year Zero, Ashen. I have a lot of old Game Pass titles. Yeah, you got to have the game still when you buy the DLC if the game leaves Game Pass. Now, I will say that a lot of times the games that leave Game Pass, when there is DLC and stuff that you purchase, sometimes they go on sale for ridiculously cheap before they leave Game Pass. Specifically, the Forza games have done that in the past. First-party stuff, I can't really speak on third-party things, but sometimes. Oh, my game mag's always falling apart. Not for the reasons you think, Jasper. It was overuse. Def Leppard's playing Ghostwire Tokyo. Nice. Pong Soul really likes Ghostwire. I'm still early on in it. I haven't played a lot of it, but I do like it. It's really different. There's not a lot. I mean, I can't really think of another game like Ghostwire Tokyo. I mean, it's very unique, which is cool. I gotta say, Tango Gameworks is one of the most surprising. We talked earlier about all these game studios that they have and stuff. Like Tango Gameworks has been, I think, a very positive thing because a Hi-Fi Rush, they already have the Evil Within franchise. They had Ghostwire Tokyo. Now, not all the games, like Ghostwire Tokyo didn't review like as crazy as good as like Hi-Fi Rush did, but it's still a lot of people perceive it as a quality game, a good game. And the best, most exciting thing about Tango Gameworks for me is how different each one of their fucking games is. Like Evil Within is completely different than Ghostwire Tokyo, even though it's both in the same in a horror genre, like completely different kind of games. And Hi-Fi Rush is not like in another world, a different kind of game than both of those other kind of games. So when Tango Gameworks has a game announcement in the future, you don't know what to expect. It could be anything, and that's amazing. I love that. Could be Evil Within 3 next, or it could be Hi-Fi Rush 2, or it could be something else crazy that we never heard of, or it could be another Ghostwire Tokyo. It could be something like, who knows? I love that. Tango Gameworks, all of them are quality too. Like you can't really pick all of this horror. Like make solid games, whether it's your favorite game or not. Like still good. Yeah, they have slight issues. Like Ghostwire Tokyo has some issues and stuff, but they're not like anywhere near as Jedi Survivor. Corey C says, if Redfall got docked for technical issues, Jedi should have gotten docked. Even if it's not the score that gets really affected, the review should have pointed out the technical issues that Jedi Survivor has. The fact that they didn't talk about hardly at all in most of the reviews is very concerning for me for game review sites. And is there a certain reason they're not allowed to say stuff? Like, I don't understand. I would love like a actual big review site that gets these emails and codes from these developers and stuff to like explain to me how your site can knock one game for technical issues, but not mention it in another game when potentially even worse. Charlie says Jedi had some issues, but it's an incredible story and world. Redfall is not. 100%. That's why score. That's what I'm saying. You can still have an 8.5 or 9 game have technical issues, right? Like Redfall, they did it right. They deserved all the smoke and mentions of all the technical issues on it. They should have been pointed out, and they were. The issue that I have is not about how Redfall was received by the games media. It's how you can go and review a game like Jedi Survivor that has these glaring issues permeating throughout the title and not hardly mention them at all. Whether it affects your score because you still enjoy the game because of how amazing it was, it's still, you owe it to the consumers that are if you're trying to be informative about the review of the product. It's like buying a car and, hey, this car is like super fast and badass and amazing. Yeah, you're reviewing this car. Oh, but the fucking buttons don't work on the dashboard, right? Oh, you can still love the car, but you should mention that there's some cheap shit in there. You got to still stay informative on at least what the quality of the product is, regardless of if it's, you still think it's considered of a 8.5 or 9 or even a 10 because you think it's that amazing. It's acceptable because it overshadows the issues. That's fine. But at least mention that the issues exist, because guess what? There's consumers out there that aren't going to get past those issues, right? Even if you can. Some people lose progress, or their games crashing multiple times, or they're having crazy performance problems, all this stuff, or you can't run it on their PC because it's janky as shit on the PC or whatever. And like Digital Foundry said, one of the worst PC releases this generation. Like, to not mention any of that in your reviews is just weird. Don't get it. Nobody found out about any of those technical issues until after the reviews dropped. You can't have that. That's weird. It just it shows like some kind of weird like we can't talk about this stuff because it's EA, right, or something like that. I don't know. I don't get it. Yeah. Hey, this car is badass, but the brakes may or may not work. Yeah, Ray. Like on my unit, I didn't mention it before. Everybody, I know I gave this car a 10 out of 10, but now after the fact, after you've already bought in the car, I got to tell you, my brakes stopped working when I got up to 80 miles an hour. I just thought I should let you know that now, after you've bought the car, that, a lot of people are having braking issues. May cause death. Yeah, that article is crazy. I don't get it. The double standard about everybody like misinterpreting and lack of comprehension about Phil's comments goes into this article, goes into like what a lot of people are using for console war stuff on Twitter. A lot of podcasts misinterpreting it as well. Like you can't just take the out of context comment without looking into everything else he said in the interview. You can't look at all that stuff like and not if you actually watch the whole interview and understand everything he's saying, you can't take that and be like, Xbox doesn't care about making quality games. Like that's just like no realm of where he was coming from. And there's too much of that this past week. And it again obviously seems like whoever wrote that GameIndustry.biz article just completely missed the point. It's crazy. Positive things from that interview though was like this Xbox showcase coming up, guys. So we can get into a little bit of that if you want. This Xbox showcase coming. It looks like it might be everything that we hope it could have been. There is Phil let some nuggets drop based on Paris's question, and Phil called it showcase, right? And with Paris was talking about what makes you like decide when to show certain things with games, because we haven't heard anything from Fable, Perfect Dark, Avowed, all these games for a few years now. Phil said, we're going to hear about some of those games on your list to Paris. So he also said there's going to be some surprises, and which is also in the I almost said permeated again. I stopped myself. I got to admit. Which was in the announcement from Xbox as well. Some surprises, updates on other games, and there'll be some third-party stuff, right? So that tells me there's going to be new game announcements. We're going to have updates on some of the already announced games, and then we're going to have some stuff from third party. So I think in this showcase, I think Phil pretty much said in the interview, he said, fuck the 12-month plan, because they failed to deliver on it. So we're going to get a mixed bag at this show. I think it'll be closer to 2021's showcase. Maybe even bigger and better, because Starfield, which would have been a huge part of the show, is at least relegated to its own 20 to 30 minutes, right? Or maybe even more. Who knows? Because they said it's 2 hours, an hour and a half, probably an hour and a half and 30 is what everybody's assuming, because the last couple showcases they had were hour and a half long. So, and I know a lot of people want them to have at least 30 minutes for Starfield, but even if they did 20 for Starfield and then an hour 40 for the showcase would still be amazing. I don't want like 45 Starfield and 1 hour and 15 for the showcase. I want at least an hour and a half of the showcase, because I feel like they need to still get through everybody's heads everything they have coming, because if you read GameIndustry.biz articles like that, they clearly have no fucking clue. So I'm curious, what do you guys think? What are y'all assuming is going to be at this show? Will we finally see Fable? That's the biggest question. Will we finally see Fable? Will we see Perfect Dark? I mean, there's like lots that could be there. Will we see State of Decay 3? Will we see Avowed? What new games are we going to get announced? There's so much excitement and hype around this show. Remember, Phil's also confident in this game per quarter now. He said that in the interview. Finally on track. He said, you know, with the game a quarter vision that they had with big games. So you got big games, and he listed off. He rambled through some. He said, still have Starfield, Forza, Hellblade 2, Avowed. In that order, Hellblade 2 will be the next game after Forza. Question is where does that lie? Does Forza maybe hit in September, October, and then maybe Hellblade in January, February? Does Hellblade come out at the end of this year, even potentially, or is it saved for next year? Is Forza November or December, and then Hellblade March? They'd still be on that track with Starfield being in September. But the smoke is Hellblade 2 is the next game now after Forza. Froggy says, have they ever officially talked about the game per quarter before the interview? I think so. I think they have. I can't remember to point to something specific, but I recall something in like some kind of interview or some kind of financial thing or something like that. Def Leppard says Perfect Dark would be nice. Game Shark says Shadow Drop. That would be crazy if there was a Shadow Drop at the showcase. It worked for Hi-Fi Rush. If they did, it would probably be some kind of smaller title, probably. Jagger Blaze Alex says, what is Everwild? Everwild is a new IP from Rare. It's been in development, like rebooted a few times in-house. They had trouble figuring out like exactly what to make the game into, but they had an over ideal for the style and world of Everwild. And they were trying to find what to turn it into for like gameplay mechanics and all that kind of stuff. So there's been a lot of questions. You had some of the studio people left Rare that were over Everwild. Other people took it over. There's some people saying it could be 2024 game, 2025 game now. It is. I'll tell you this about Everwild. It is a gorgeous game. What we've seen from it, art style wise, looks really, really, really gorgeous. But we don't know exactly what it is gameplay wise or anything like that. Jasper says Shadow Drops or Phil is fired at the showcase. Shadow Drops Phil is fired at the showcase. Like they just Satya Nadella walks out on stage and says, Phil, I gotta stop you here. You're fired. Yeah, I don't think that's gonna happen. My most wants is Fable, Perfect Dark. We know Forza is going to be there, right? Forza is going to be there. Then we got, I would say, as a potential Hellblade 2 is going to be there now. But what I want most is Perfect Dark and Fable. I want those two games to be showcased, and I want to see what the games are. Sin says, if you want to hold the gaming media accountable for inconsistent review practices, then start by calling them out by name and call out the specific reviewer by name too. I already did on one of our shows the other day after the Jedi Survivor reviews dropped, because we had this discussion even before Redfall came out. We had said that, you know, if Redfall comes out and they pick apart technical aspects on it, we're going to give these reviewers smoke because they didn't affect them at all on their Jedi Survivor scores and their reviews. They didn't even hardly mention them. At that point during the show, I read a Game Informer reviews, and I read one from their review on High on Life, which they gave, I think, a 5.75. And they literally listed individual bugs and issues and technical problems with the game. And we all know there was a huge day one patch on that game that fixed the frame rate issues and stuff like that, right? So they gave High on Life a 5.75. They individually listed some like just bugs that were not even like huge deals, just like normal bugs. But like because you put it in an article, you know what I mean, it becomes a big thing, right? And then talked about the performance issues and stuff like that. So that reviewer gave it a 5.75. Now, I don't remember the name, but I said it on the show. But then I went and looked at the review of Jedi Survivor, which was a 9.25 for Game Informer, which was reviewed by the editor-in-chief, I believe. And I don't remember his name either. But I thought it interesting was who reviewed it, first off, for Game Informer. And then the failure of any lack of any kind of consideration or acknowledgement of technical issues in the entire review for Jedi Survivor. Not to mention 9.25, High on Life 5.75. And the review had a whole two paragraphs, or maybe even three, dedicated to technical stuff. Crazy. High on Life's a pretty polished game. It's not perfect, you know, but it's like pretty damn polished. Way more polished than Jedi Survivor was at launch. Charlie Hustle says, do I think they were mostly playing in 30 frames per second quality mode on Jedi? I think so, Charlie, and which seems like a lot of games media don't care about performance. You know, but I don't understand why you mention it in Redfall so much when you meant, because that only has the quality mode. It's got some frame drops and stuff, but so does Jedi Survivor in quality mode. And both Digital Foundry did the breakdown on the performance on Redfall, or on Jedi Survivor. I mean, and they said it was the best experience and best way to play that game, right? But there was still issues. Like, there were still drops. There's still problems. There's still a lot of other issues in the game. And I agree. Like, I tried the quality mode for a little bit. I had to turn it off like fucking instantly. Like, it was just garbage compared. Like, performance mode was a really like broken experience, but I still would rather play that over that shitty, the quality mode. Like, it was just 30 frames couldn't do it. But there was still issues, crashes, and other issues within the within that quality mode still. You know, like, and maybe they just played that. I don't know. But still, even on the PC reviews, the PC reviews that people have crazy inconsistence with, and it's broken and all these things, and like one of the worst PC releases of this generation, no mention even then on those. So I don't think that's it. I think it's just a lack of any kind of acknowledgement of the problems that were blatant all over the place on social media after. Yeah, we're at 91 likes, everybody. My beautiful wife, Caitlin, pointed out into the chat. Only 9 till we hit 100. You don't have any many issues in quality mode, but definitely has some performance. But even as a reviewer, shouldn't you test out the performance mode as well? You know what I mean? Like, they're still putting it in the game. Like, if you get an asterisk from like EA saying, "Hey, don't play this in performance mode," I'm going to play it in performance mode as a reviewer to see what the problems are. Pedro Corral says, "Unclicked and reclicked. Does it count?" It counts for the same click. I appreciate it, man. You say you agree. You just doubt many did. Yeah, I'm just I'm trying to hold these game reviewers accountable. You know, like, I think that it's reviewers review games. It should be for the consumers, right? But it's also for their own personal website and content that some of them make money on it. Some of them don't, probably. But most of the ones that are probably listed on sites like Metacritic and OpenCritic, I would think probably have some kind of financial incentive for running their websites, right? And when you're making articles based on reviews, you're getting them out there early, you want clicks on it to drive people to your website. So there's a business side of it that these gaming sites reviewing these games for, right? It's not just goodwill. Like, sometimes it is, but especially with big sites like Game Informer and IGN and some places like that, like, they have that's what they're doing. It's a business, you know, so they have a financial incentive to review these games. So if you're doing this as a business with making money on reviewing something, it's for your own personal gain as much as it is to inform the consumer. You have a responsibility to try and have some integrity with what you're putting out there. Otherwise, it comes across that you're just like doing it for financial reasons and you don't actually care about the consumer. So, like, if you have to make sure the consumer comes first in order to have some kind of accountability and integrity in what you're saying. You know, like, I just feel like there has to be some kind of accountability or integrity or like from game reviewers on these big websites. Now, like Joe Schmo that starts up his own thing and like, you know, like tries to run his website and he's just starting out and stuff, you know, learning the ways. Like, I'm gonna give that guy a pass, you know, but I'm not going and pointing out those things. I'm looking at stuff like Game Informer, IGN, you know, GameSpot, you know, like big sites and stuff like that. Like, a lot of the smaller content creators or smaller sites or people that have smaller websites and reviewing these things, they generally have a stronger passion for it. And a lot of those are the ones that are pointing out the issues. Like, they should be the ones people should be listening to, not these fake ass gamers that want to be political journalists that happen to only be able to get a job in games media. RWK88 says, "It's sad the combo always has to be, what are we waiting on from Xbox? What are they maybe going to show?" Well, I mean, we haven't been really waiting on games this year, have we? I mean, I haven't been. Like, there's been a consistent flow of games this year. Now, Redfall didn't meet our expectations, but it still came out. Like, it should have been delayed. But like, we're really not like waiting this year. This year is like on track. Everything's been on track this year. I don't think Xbox gets enough credit for the year that they've had this year so far. Like, there's been literally, and we can look at it. Like, we have, I said it earlier. We had Hi-Fi Rush, a surprise drop that nobody even knew that game was coming, which is a critically acclaimed game as well. Then we had Age 2 Definitive Edition hit console, which is also very highly played. And Phil Spencer even said that game's even more played than Hi-Fi Rush. So Age 2 is a success for them. It's very good on console too. They deserve a lot of credit for that console version because they nailed the controls on that. And I'm excited for what they're going to do with RTSs in the future on console for that. Ghostwire Tokyo hit for Game Pass Day 1, which is a first party game. We had Minecraft Legends, and then we had the shitty downtime of Redfall release. So they've had 5 first party releases on this year alone on Xbox already. It's not even fucking June yet. It's May. We've had one per month pretty much this year on Xbox. Like, I don't really know, like, what, like, they deserve credit for that. How many has Sony had? They've had MLB The Show, which is even an exclusive game. Like, Xbox deserves some credit for that. Like, yeah, the Redfall fiasco is as unacceptable. We got to give them criticism for that. And trust me, they are absolutely feeling it. When we say, oh, you got to, like, I see some people out there, you can't even have fun with Redfall, because if not, they're just going to keep making shitty games. Trust me, Microsoft understands this is an issue right now. He's like, did you see Phil at that interview? Did you see how, like, upset he was, and how you've never seen him before like that? To think that some random person saying they're having fun with Redfall on Twitter is going to make Microsoft decide that they have to make shitty games, and they're going to keep making shitty games or whatever, that, like, whole stupid thing. I see, like, this, oh, you can't cap for it because you're going to fuck us all over now, and they're going to think it's acceptable, so you can't even talk about having fun with it. Come on, man. Like, what? Really? You're going to talk about, like, other people that can't even have fun or celebrate something they're enjoying, even if it sucks? Like, come on. Like, we all played bad games before. But it's not going to change Microsoft and how the impact that they've had from this. It's got a fucking 59 on Metacritic. It's overwhelmingly negative on Steam. Everybody's talking about how shitty it is, and you're going to go and, like, chase away the few people that are enjoying it for the sake of worry about Xbox thinking it's a success? Really? Really? Microsoft understands that Redfall is a failure. Yeah, we got 5 first-party releases already this year. We have we've already also had big first day one games in Game Pass, like Wolong. You have MLB The Show hit day one in Game Pass already this year. You have indie titles hitting day one in Game Pass. Last Case of Benedict Fox, Ravenlock just hit. Yeah, regardless, I see Splendid Difference says it's not that actually that bad. Regardless of what it is the perception is that is bad. So Redfall to Microsoft is a failure, regardless of if some people like it or not, or if, like, you find enjoyment in it and you think it's not that bad. I agree. Like, it's not, I've tried it. It's not the worst game I've played either. I think, like, it's around a 6 probably from the short time I played with it. It seems fair, which is okay. I've played games that are 5s before and had a blast, right? Like, some games are just okay or to good, and that is what it is. For me, the main issue was the performance and the bug issues they have in the game that they launched with. I think it should have been delayed for those reasons more than anything else, right? However, regardless of that, like, it's cool if you're enjoying it, right? It's not the score that Microsoft wanted. It's not the reception that they wanted for the game, though. Bottom line. Jasper says it should have been about a 68, but Hive Mind took over on it. Yeah, maybe it could have been. Amit Kumar says that Redfall is around a 6 to 7, which is fine. It's not great, but it's definitely not bad. Yeah, I'm gonna play it when the patches come out, and I'll play through it and have fun with it. You know, I'm not expecting it to change my world or anything. You know, but I'm thinking, like, I'll probably end up eventually having a good time with this game because I'll have fun playing with friends. It'll be a co-op experience, right? Like, it's just like, I see these people saying you can't have fun with it. It's unexcusable. You're not allowed to play it. You're not allowed to talk about it. You can't share anything about it. You can't share screenshots about it. You can't talk about this or that. I'm like, cool. Like, just let people be who they are and play what they want, man. Like, it ain't that serious, you know? And for people to say it's only Xbox that has these kind of failures, it's not. Sony has had them. A lot of games have flopped before or not come out good with other companies. Like, It's a thing that unfortunately happens sometimes. This is one that came at a very bad time for Xbox with their big ramping up and finally getting this production and underway and all this kind of stuff. If Redfall was like as a big success, then that would have been such an amazing moment for Xbox. So that's kind of why it hit them harder, I think, and it caused a lot of frustration. But it's not the end all be all of like the Xbox brand, which I see this doom and gloom of like, oh, now it just really shows that Xbox can't deliver any kind of high quality games. And like Xbox is just like, oh, doesn't care about making quality. Xbox doesn't care about their consumer. Xbox is just bad for gaming. They need to stop this subscription service because it's ruining the quality of what they can provide to the consumer. They need to stop acquiring companies because it's going to ruin everything. Consolidation is bad. PlayStation has so many good games, and Xbox can't figure out how to put out one. I don't understand why Xbox is even in gaming. They shouldn't even exist anymore. I mean, they've just never done anything good in like 20 years of existence. They just like don't even matter. Why is Xbox still ruining things for me in my life? I'm so pathetic. Fucking A. Like that shit. So annoying. Oh my God, I just can't take it anymore. I mean, this Xbox is just like, they just can't do anything right. I like, why even try? Why Xbox? Phil Spencer needs to be replaced because he obviously doesn't care about quality. He just wants to make shitty games and put them in his shitty fodder subscription service and force us all to subscribe to it to play the games that we used to love on our PlayStations, but now Microsoft bought it. So now I got to subscribe to Game Pass. I'm losing it. Xbox stole my wife and kids. I hate Xbox. I don't understand. I mean, like, Xbox is just, they've never done anything for gaming, anything good. They just know how to buy. They don't know how to create. Xbox has never created anything. PlayStation creates everything, and everything is organically grown, just like my carrots and my little farm outside of my house. I never leave my house. I grow my own food organically, just like PlayStation did with Insomniac. It's amazing, PlayStation. I love them so much. Jim Ryan deserves $10 extra for every single game he puts out because he's just the best. I don't fucking get it, guys. I understand. I need a bong hit stat. You see this? You guys realize I'm saying the same shit that these people say all the time. Xbox just made a post. Let me hit my thing where I can hit F1 on this comment and it automatically posts my thing that says Xbox has no games. I'm first. Fucking losers. Xbox has no games. I'm going to go, you know what I'm going to do with my night, everybody? I'm going to spend the next 4 hours watching Xbox podcasts and going into their chats. It's going to be so funny. Everybody, it's going to be so funny. I'm going to go into their chats and I'm going to type Xbox has no games in the everybody in the chat's going to be so mad. They're not going to know what's coming. Xbox has no games. Fire Phil Spencer. Oh, man. It's accurate as fuck. It is accurate. It's what they say. It's what it's reality. That's the world we live in. I mean, why did they even acquire Double Fine? Why did they acquire Ninja Theory? I mean, what does that do for them as far as culture? I mean, come on. I mean, like, why would Microsoft find it important to use their checkbook to funnel third-party exclusive titles to their game that they didn't make themselves? Man, these guys, I don't understand. Jasper says, no, for only $1 a day, you can help this man get the help he needs. He is 40, by the way. Yeah, some of those fuckers that type in those chats, unfortunately, Jasper, are 50. They're over 40. Game Shark with a $2 super chat says, Pony game dialogue. You won't last 5 minutes. It's just crazy, guys. I mean, it's just ongoing, nonsensical misinformation, lack of comprehension, double standard bullshit that happens consistently by games media and a completely brainwashed fan base to not even realize the reality of the world that they're living in. A world in which news should actually tell people what's going on. Actual actions from Microsoft should actually tell people what's going on. The fact that we've already had 5 first-party releases this year to Sony's 1 should tell people what's actually going on. But there's no actual acknowledgement of reality. It doesn't fit the narrative. It just is what it is. As Phil Spencer said, it's hard in these streets when Nintendo and PlayStation do deals behind the scenes that make it hard for Xbox. Especially when you have all these gaming media sites that just completely miss the boat on anything with any kind of lack of sense. But shit. All right, guys. I don't know what else to talk about. You guys got any questions? I've been ranting for a while. I want to know, like, what's the number one thing you want to see at the showcase? A showcase is happening on June 11th. We got the Summer Game Fest on June 8th. I think we got Ubisoft Forward on June 12th. We'll be covering all those shows here on the channel. I'll be co-streaming and all that stuff. So I make sure to watch the content here. It'll be a fun time. Bizarro World. Is that a game? Banjo. Jasper. Sea of Thieves. Indiana Jones. That'd be a good one. Fable. Charlie says Forza Avowed Indiana Jones. RSJ says Forza Motorsport at least. Game Shark says, dude, in the future, every non-Xbox gamer is going to say, I have a PlayStation, but I also have Game Pass, etc. Probably so. Do I shop organic, OCD gamer? No, I don't care if it's organic or not. Um, I I buy what tastes the best. Heat stroke, Mav, Def Leopard says. I might have had one when I was up here streaming. It doesn't feel as bad right now though. I might have had one when I went to Pony Mind there for a minute. Sorry, I don't know what happened during that time period, guys. Like I think I like mentally trans furred my mind, somebody else's mind went into mine, like some other like PlayStation fanboy guy just overtook me. I completely apologize for that. Call it the pony mind, I guess. Like it's just I don't know. You know, I feel like it's a subconscious thing from seeing and hearing all these words all these years now, just remembering all these dumb comments and the voice that might be behind them. I don't know. Indiana Jones. What's up, Talos? How's it going, man? Oh, yeah, I want to see my top two are Fable and Perfect Dark. Maybe my third would be State of Decay 3. I'm not counting Forza Motorsport because I'm like confident it's going to be there. So that's like I'm just trying to give that as a given. The other games, I think those three would be my most wanting to see. And Avowed, shit, Avowed. I don't know. Okay, so Perfect Dark, Fable, and Avowed probably. Froggy says, "Do I think Minecraft will ever get ray tracing? I don't fucking know. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with that. It was one of the first things they showed off. Remember, like when they talked about the Xbox Series X and all that stuff, and they like had that demo shown. It went viral. Everybody was like, "Oh my god, ray tracing is so fucking such a big deal. Look at what it does for Minecraft. Holy shit! Even Minecraft looks amazing." And yet we were all let down by ray tracing when it was in reality, because I think the first game that came out this generation that really tried to utilize it was Watch Dogs Legion. And Watch Dogs came out, and it turned out the only thing it really did was you could see yourself in puddles. You can see, like, wow, that's amazing. I've been seeing myself in puddles in games for fucking 20 years. Ray tracing's great. And then it made the game run like shit and like 30 frames per second. They didn't even have a performance mode at launch in Watch Dogs Legion. And you know what that game taught me? Watch Dogs Legion taught me I fucking hate ray tracing. I can't stand it. Ray tracing is the worst gimmick that has been this generation. It'll be cool eventually when it doesn't eat up all the fucking resources of a game. But if you want to tell me that your reflection in a puddle or your reflection on itself or whatever is so damn important right now to these games when it's barely even utilizing what ray tracing really is, and it eats up that much performance, killing the performance on our games, it ain't worth it. Drop it. You know, 10 years from now, 5 years from now, whatever, when his next consoles come out or the next consoles come out, you can have full on ray tracing and it really transfers the appearance of stuff to what people are seeing on 4090s with like Cyberpunk and shit right now on their PCs. At that point, I'll give a shit, right? Right now, I don't care about that shit at all because every single game that comes out, it ruins the performance of it. Forza Motorsport maybe will change my mind because it's going to have 4K 60 with ray tracing, right? But every other fucking game, I don't care. That's a racing game. That's the kind of game they can do it in, man. But like everything else is like, why ruin the performance of a game? Like Jedi Survivor's got like baked in ray tracing and shit, like killing the performance on that game. Take it out. I don't want it. I want a better performing game, please. Forte said, thanks for the stream, Mav. Love your opinions on the matter of Xbox. You had me yelling at my screen while doing a video at certain points. Was about to tell you to link me in for a second. Right on, bro. Anytime, Forte. Appreciate you, man. Best solo stream you've seen so far? Yeah, I told you guys when I started, I was in a little mood from this past week. Just like everything you see, like just the shit, you know, like I don't know. It's and hey, maybe not everybody's gonna agree. You know, it is what it is. I just calling it like I see it, right? Reflection in toilet water is incredible. Coming in 2024, you can finally see your reflection in a mirror in a video game. You know what, like Dead Island 2, you can't see your reflections in mirrors. Does that affect me? Do I actually even really give a shit? Oh, it'd be nice, you know, but I'd rather have the 60 frames per second that I'm getting in the game for the like to offset the like 1 second I happen to bypass a mirror in the game, right? Like, hey, can we make our game entirely run like shit for like the entire thing? So that way, when you happen to pass a mirror, you know, it's just slightly more believable. No, fuck that. I want the whole game to be good instead of entirely assy so you can make a better reflection. It priorities people with the making games. If you can't make an open world game untethered with, and you have to be 30 frames per second in order to make that shit this day, don't fucking tether us. Put a fucking string around our ankles and tie us to each other and make us be 5 feet apart. I would much rather that than play your shitty 30 frames experience that's going to have frame drops whenever you see any fucking big building. Like, please tether me. Or you know what? Segment the world or something. Because guess what? Load times are so fast these days. And Dead Island 2 is not completely open world, right? You have all these different segments you go into. But you know what? It takes like 3 seconds to go into that next part of the world. Does that affect me too much? No, it's not like the old days when it took like a minute or 2 minutes to load into a section. I'll gladly eat up that 3 seconds because you can't figure out how to use Unreal Engine 4 or whatever for the sake of getting 60 frames in the entire fucking game. Right? Like the entire game is better for the sake of one slight decision that you make on the overall functionality of the game. Just like priorities, please. Performance. 60 frames should be standard. It should be standard. Ray tracing sucks. I hate it. I hate that. I hate when these companies make decisions for like, well, it's our creative vision. Yeah, our creative vision is to make the game suck the whole time by putting it at 30 frames. That's not a good decision. I get you're trying to say that you want to make a certain thing, but technology ain't there yet, bro. Wait till it's there before you make that vision of what you're trying to make. So that way the whole shit doesn't suck. I'm just saying. Decisions, priorities, time, optimization, please. I'm sick of these games coming out either half-ass broken or like with horrible decisions that were made early on in development that completely hamstring them with performance. If you want to have all the bells and whistles of all the visuals and all that stuff, option for performance. You're right. Froggy says performance mode should be standard. It should be an option. PC, you can toggle all this shit individually on and off on like every fucking game. They can't figure out how in consoles to give us 2 options. A poor performance game is better than Sony's 0 games. I like some Sony games. I'm excited for Final Fantasy 16. I'm excited for Spider-Man 2 somewhat. I like MO. I love MLB The Show. I want them to bring Uncharted back. Ghost of Tsushima is great. But a lot of the stuff also I don't care about. So it's not all about first party. You know, like first party is a thing that helps for sure, but not everybody's going to be. We got to stop the thing that like every single gamer is going to be excited for every first party game that releases. You know what I mean? Like not every gamer is excited for every PlayStation first party game that comes out. Not everybody's going to be excited for every Xbox first party game that comes out, right? Like there's some that are going to be more excited over others. Jasper's right. My most played game this year so far is MLB The Show, probably. Like some games are going to move the needle for you, some games aren't. But eventually, a game's going to come out that's going to excite you enough to want you to play it. And some people buy a console for that reason. Some don't. Some will subscribe to Game Pass for the game or whatever. But like, there's more to the ecosystems than just the first party stuff. You know, I feel like the benefit for me of the Game Pass is like, as badass it is that we get for all the first party games in there day one, you also get a lot of third party stuff in there, either recently released or day one as well. So it's just a constant flow of stuff to play. And it's not all going to excite you, but there's going to be a lot of cool stuff in there for you. You would say people buy Nintendo for just first party? Yeah, probably Sousa, but not every Nintendo gamer buys every first party game. Also, like a person that loves Mario games may not like Pikmin, right? Somebody like Pikmin comes out or Animal Crossing or whatever, a certain kind of gamer that Nintendo isn't necessarily going to be sold on Pikmin or whatever. And that's my point. Like, yeah, they buy it for first party, especially on Nintendo, but like PlayStation and Xbox is also about third party stuff. First party helps for sure cement the brand and the ecosystem and everything. But like not everybody's going to love every first party game. That's just bottom line. And even though PlayStation first party games are often great, a lot of people still don't like certain ones, or they pretend to just for the sake of console wars stuff. Yeah, it's great. I'm loving it. It's so exciting. I'm glad I get this quality. I'm going to play it and talk about how amazing it is. And then I'm going to move on. You can tell some fake shit out there. However, like one thing I'll say, like a lot of Xbox gamers don't do that. Like, well, this sucks, right? Like, I'm supposed to like this. Okay, I'm gonna like it. And you want to charge me more for it? Okay, I'll pay more. It's fine. You want me to buy it again? Director's cut? Okay, I loved it the first time. I'll buy it again. Oh, okay. Again? You're gonna release it again? The third time? Okay, I'll buy it again. No, with haptics this time. Okay, I got $10 more. It's worth it. Fair enough. Fair enough. At least it's quality. You know, at least it's quantity, right? We can really get our quantity up there when we release our same game 4 times. That really helps. It does. It helps the brand. It helps fund our other games. So it's cool. We'll release the same game 4 times, and I'll pretend that I love it 4 times. We released the game on PS3, re-released it on PS4, re-released it on PS5, and then put it out on PC. No cross-play, no cross-buy, no cross-progression. But it's okay. $70. We'll come out with it again in 3 years when we have the PS5 Pro. Last of Us Remaster Remake Pro Edition. This time, This time we have new face on this character. There's a new face on Joel. So it's new. It's different. Well, how about this? We'll take our... Hey, you love your PS Plus subscription? Are you liking PS Plus Extra, everybody? Well, guess what? I got exciting news for you. We're going to take Spider-Man off of it. But don't worry. We're going to come back out with it next month, and you're going to be able to buy it all over again for the first time on PS5 as a standalone. Something that we gave to you for free with Miles Morales. Don't worry. It's good for us. It's good for the consumer. It's good for your business. It's good for our business. I mean, you're going to love it. We're going to remove it off of our subscription service, even though it's first party. It's okay because now you're going to get to own it for $50. Okay. I know that you got it for free if you bought Miles Morales before for $70. The game that used to be a, potential DLC for Spider-Man. We expanded upon it. We sold it for $70 and gave you Spider-Man for free, and remastered for PS5. Trust me, this is great for you. But now what we're gonna do, like we have the subscription service. We gotta make sure that people understand that there's a reason to subscribe. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our games off of it. So it's best for the consumer. You understand, guys, that the games that we have, we're going to actually take off of our service because it provides better value to you, because now you can buy it again. It makes complete and total sense. It makes complete sense. And also, guess what? Spider-Man 2 is coming this year. So this is releasing just in time. 100%. It makes complete sense. This business of games is great. It's crazy. Anyway, I've ranted on long enough, guys. Wow, we're almost going on 3 hours. Holy shit! Have I ever gotten that delirious where I got lost in this weird void of mindless ranting for 3 hours? Holy shit! Appreciate you all being here. It was a fun stream, and maybe we'll do that. Like I said before, I try and do some streams on Sundays. And it's a lot of fun hanging out with you guys. So I appreciate when you come and hang out and have fun with me. We have more shows coming this week. Hopefully there's some news. We got Mondays FSP at 10 p.m. Eastern, Thursdays PM in the PM at 7 p.m. Eastern, and Fridays Xbox Ultimate Podcast in at 10 p.m. Eastern. And what was that? What was in the tumbler, you ask? I ain't telling. But whatever it is gone. But you guys rock again. Thank you all for hanging out tonight. And I'll see you all again real soon. Appreciate you being here. Peace out, everybody.